My name is Alina Mercer. I'm 35 years old, and the day I paid $12 million to save my mother-in-law's life was the same day my husband decided mine was no longer worth anything. The hospital room still smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee when he slid the folder across the table. "Thanks for the help," he said, almost casually, like we were closing a business deal instead of standing at the edge of everything we had built together. Then he smiled, a thin, satisfied smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Now you're nothing." I didn't open the folder. I didn't need to. Divorce papers. I already knew. For a moment, I just sat there, listening to the quiet hum of machines from the ICU down the hall, where his mother was still fighting to stay alive with a heart I had just paid for. $12 million. Approved, transferred, signed without hesitation. And he had been waiting for me to finish. "So, this was the plan?" I asked quietly. He leaned back in his chair, completely at ease, like a man who believed the game was already over. "The house is in my name," he said. "The car too. Accounts are clean. You signed everything months ago." Months ago. When he said it was for tax purposes. When he said it would protect us. I nodded slowly, not because I agreed, but because I remembered. Every document. Every late-night signature. Every moment I chose trust over questions. "You don't have anything left," he added. "Just sign this, and we can keep things civil." Civil. That word almost made me laugh. I finally looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I didn't see my husband. I saw a man who had turned my loyalty into an exit strategy. And I smiled. Not wide. Not emotional. Just enough. Because what he didn't know was simple. I never moved money without leaving a trail. And this time, the trail didn't lead back to me. He mistook my smile for surrender. It wasn't. It was understanding. "I'll read it," I said, pulling the folder a few inches closer, but still not opening it. "Take your time," he replied, glancing at his watch like he had somewhere better to be. Of course he did. He always did. Meetings. Calls. Late dinners I used to admire. I used to call it ambition. Now I knew what it really was. Distance. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. "A while," he said without hesitation. "Honest." That almost surprised me. "Before her diagnosis?" I asked, nodding toward the ICU. He paused. Then shrugged. "After things got expensive." There it was. Not just betrayal. Calculation. He had waited until I was emotionally locked in, until there was no version of me that would ever say no to saving his mother. And then he moved everything out from under me. Quietly. Legally. Clean. "You could have just asked for help," I said. "I did," he replied. "You gave it. No guilt. No hesitation. Just facts." I finally opened the folder. Everything was there, property transfers, asset divisions, signatures. Mine. Neatly placed under language I hadn't questioned enough at the time. On paper, he was right. I had nothing. He stood up, adjusting his jacket. "Sign it today," he said. "My lawyers are ready." "I will," I said calmly. That made him pause. Just for a second. Because he expected a fight. What he didn't expect was that I had already started one. Weeks ago. The moment something stopped making sense. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big lie, no obvious red flag. Just a number. A small one. But wrong. He had handed me documents late one night, routine restructuring, he called it. Tax efficiency. Asset protection. I signed. Because I trusted him. But later, alone, I opened one of the digital copies. And I saw it. A transfer that didn't match the account it was supposed to come from. It wasn't missing. It was redirected. Carefully. Subtly. The kind of move that only stands out if you already understand how money is supposed to flow. I didn't confront him. I didn't ask questions. Because by then, I already knew what kind of man I was married to. Instead, I made a different call. Not to a friend. Not to family. To an auditor. Independent. Quiet. Expensive. The kind of person you hire when you don't want reassurance. You want proof. For 3 weeks, while I sat beside his mother's hospital bed, while I signed consent forms, while I approved payments and transferred millions, someone else was tracing everything. Every dollar. Every account. Every shell company. Every signature. Including mine. "Do you trust your husband?" the auditor asked me once. I didn't answer. Because trust wasn't the question anymore. Control was. By the time the surgery was scheduled, I knew something he didn't. He thought he had taken everything. But he had only taken what I let him move. And what I left behind was worth far more than 12 million. The surgery lasted 8 hours. I stayed the entire time. I signed everything. Approved everything. Answered every call like it was the only thing that mattered. Because in that moment, it did. Whatever he had planned, whatever he had already done. I wasn't going to let his mother die because of it. That wasn't who I was. But while I waited, my phone didn't stop lighting up. Not messages. Notifications. Quiet ones. From systems I had set in motion weeks earlier. The auditor had given me a choice. "Do you want to recover it?" he asked, "or understand it first?" "Both," I said. So while the hospital processed 12 million under my authorization, something else was happening. Parallel. Legal. Documented. Timestamped. Every account he had touched was being flagged. Not frozen. Not yet. Just marked. So nothing could move without leaving a record. "You'll only get one clean shot," the auditor warned me. "After that, he'll know." So I waited. Not hours. Not days. For the right moment. The surgery ended at 2:17 a.m. Successful. By morning, he was smiling again, relieved, grateful, convincing. By afternoon, he handed me the divorce papers. That's when I knew. He thought this was the end. He didn't realize. It was exactly the moment I had been waiting for. Because once he made his move publicly, mine couldn't be stopped. I signed the papers right in front of him. No argument. No hesitation. His smile came back instantly. Relief. Satisfaction. Victory. "Smart," he said. "Dragging this out wouldn't have helped you." I nodded like I agreed. Because I needed him comfortable. Confident. Careless. "What about the accounts near Roy?" I asked casually. "All handled," he said. "Transferred weeks ago." Of course they were. That was the point. "I'll have my lawyer finalize everything," he added. "You'll get a copy." A copy. Like I was just another file. "Of course," I said. He walked out without looking back. No doubt. No hesitation. In his mind, it was over. I waited 3 minutes. Then I made one call. "Do it," I said. No explanation. I didn't need one. "Understood," came the reply. And just like that, everything changed. Across 3 institutions, processes began moving. Quietly. Irreversibly. Compliance flags turned into internal reviews. Internal reviews turned into legal holds. Not accusations. Not yet. But enough. Enough to stop everything. Every account he thought was untouchable. Stopped responding. Not frozen. Not seized. Just locked in place. For the first time in his life, he lost control. And he didn't know why. It took him 4 hours to notice. His first call came at 6:12 p.m. I didn't answer. The second came 30 seconds later. Then another. By the fifth call, I picked up. "What did you do?" he demanded. No greeting. No control. Just pressure. "I signed the papers," I said calmly. "Isn't that what you wanted?" "My accounts aren't processing," he snapped. "Transfers are failing. Cards aren't working." There it was. The crack. "That sounds like a bank issue," I said. "This isn't a bank issue," he said sharply. "This is you." I let the silence stretch. "Did something go wrong with your tax plan?" I asked. "This isn't funny, Alina." I'm not laughing. Because I wasn't. This wasn't revenge. It was correction. "I need you to fix it," he said. Need. Not demand. That was new. "I can't fix something I don't control," I replied. Silence. Longer this time. Then. "You knew," he said. Not a question. A realization. I suspected, I corrected. And then I ended the call. Over the next hour, things didn't improve for him. They got worse. Notifications turned into emails. Emails turned into calls. And those calls weren't asking anymore. They were informing. Accounts under review. Effective immediately. By the next morning, it wasn't just banks calling him. It was everyone. His lawyer. His accountant. Unknown numbers he couldn't ignore. He answered one. I know he did. Because 10 minutes later, he called me again. I didn't pick up. He texted. They're saying compliance review. What did you file? I didn't respond. Because I hadn't filed anything. Not directly. I had just connected what was already there. By noon, the language escalated. Enhanced due diligence. Potential irregular activity. That's the thing about money trails. They don't accuse. They reveal. He showed up at the hospital at 1 p.m. Same place it started. Different man. No confidence. No smile. Just urgency. Alina, he said, stepping inside like he still belonged there. You need to call them. Whatever you started, stop it. I didn't start anything, I said. I just made sure it could be seen. He ran a hand through his hair. This can ruin me. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said the one thing I had been holding back. You already ruined something. He didn't argue. Didn't deny it. Because now. He understood. Not just what I had done. But what he had done. And why it was never going to stay hidden. By the end of the week, everything was out of his hands. Accounts restricted. Transactions flagged or reversed. Lawyers speaking carefully now, no confidence, just caution. Trying to understand how deep it went before saying anything permanent. The audit trail had done exactly what it was supposed to do. It didn't destroy him. It exposed him. And once something like that is visible, it doesn't disappear. I didn't chase him. Didn't demand anything back. Didn't need to. Because this was never about the money. It was about truth. And consequences. A week later, the divorce was finalized. Fast. Clean. No negotiations. I signed without hesitation. Not because I lost. But because I had nothing left to prove. The house? Never really mine. The car? Replaceable. The money? Recoverable. But what he lost was different. reputation, access, control. The things he built his entire life on. I went back to the hospital one last time before discharge. His mother was awake. Weak. But alive. She held my hand and whispered, "Thank you." I smiled. Not for him. Not for what happened. But because I knew something he never would. Saving her life was the only thing I did for free.